Able here, and you're watching the 6th episode of You Are Able. And tonight, my guest is Stephen O'Reilly, who is a functional longevity coach. I'm super excited because this is like my party night where I get to enjoy and have fun. Hey, okay. See, you're the first one. Once again, you're the first one to get in. Awesome. All right, so I'm going to get started now. Once again, thank you to everybody for joining. So you're watching the 6th episode of You Are Able, where I talk to people who I consider are inspiring and motivational. And this is another way for me to obviously connect with people because I find life a lot more boring than usual. So this is like my party night where I get to have fun and have people join in, and we're just gonna have like a half an hour chat, a casual chat with my guests. And if anybody is interested in joining and be my guest in the future, please do let me know and send me a direct message. Now tonight, this topic is very interesting for me because, hey Barbara, because Steve wants to talk about, it's not about fat. Now, Steve has a lot of experience. I think you have been a coach for many, many years. How many years have you been a coach?
Coaching in total, probably about 25, 30 years.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you look, everybody, he looks very, very young, so he doesn't look like he has been doing this for 20, 25 years, but I know he has extensive experience. And I would like to ask you, what do you mean by it's not about the fat?
Well, the reason I came up with the title, Abel, was because when we were speaking originally, you were talking about creating this series about self-love.
Right.
And it just struck a chord with me because most of the clients I deal with who come to me, I would have to say 95% of them, it's more about the emotional problem than the physical problem. Mm-hmm. It's usually body dysmorphia or low self-esteem or, just a lack of self-love, basically. So it did resonate with me, what you were saying. And, we focus too much on the fat for people who are trying to lose weight and get in shape and health-wise. I disagree with that mentality totally. I try to deal with my clients in a different way. Really, it's about taking them on a journey of self-discovery so that they sort of kind of find out the problem for themselves. And hopefully then they can, create, what I like to do is create a magnificent obsession for the future rather than a focus on the past. So that's what the program I created is all about. It's about this journey of self-discovery and embracing life and moving forward and letting go of the baggage and not worrying so much about the fat, just focusing on being healthy. And losing the fat is a side effect there. That's what we try to create, a side effect rather than a focus point. And that's the biggest difference between me and probably a lot of other coaches in that respect.
Okay. So most of your clients, most of them are trying to lose fat physically, and but they don't actually know that the real issue is a past issue, perhaps, or a mentality issue.
This is an interesting thing because I think my personal feeling is that most times most people know. But it's a case of maybe they're not ready to deal with that, or there's other issues to deal with or other stresses in their life. For my money, if once you get past 20s and 30s, and you're into your 30s and your 40s and 50s and beyond, if you're coming to someone like myself, and I'm usually the last resort, I have to say, they've gone through the personal trainers and the nutritionists and they come to me. Right. They already know that the problem doesn't lie with the fact that they cannot train or they cannot eat the right diet. They've done all that, so they already know this. And I think the majority of people out there know this anyway, because, I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't know what healthy food is and what exercise is. But actually making them work, that's a different story. And usually there's a different roadblock in front of that. It's not about getting to the gym. It's not about finding the time. It's more about the psychology behind that for most people.
So it seems like you're very, I personally, hey Kitty, how are you? I personally know that you're a very deep person. You're very deep and analytical, and you like to listen when people, I mean, when I talk to you, you listen a lot, I think. And you do analyze a lot of things from what your clients are saying. Now, you have to tell me a little bit more about how do you help your clients? You say that you're the last resort. So
Yeah.
you're like the fixer. So that means that the people who come to you have real, like they're
They've
in
done it all.
trouble.
Usually they've spent a fortune on trainers. They've done all the diets. They've bought all the diet books out there. They've tried everything when they come to me. And
Yeah.
it's usually like, I'm quite fortunate. Most of my clients are referred to me, word of mouth, very little marketing, so I don't need to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I am the last resort. They've given up with everything else. And it's
Right.
like, okay, well, let's see what you can do. You seem to do something different to everybody else. So
Right.
that's really where I am at. I created this program called the Edge program, which
Mm-hmm.
basically focuses on the whole person. I'm not
Okay.
interested in the training side, that's part of it. The nutrition side's part of it, but it's about the whole person. It's a holistic approach. Because
Right.
if it's taking you 20 or 30 years to get to the physical condition you're in now, 6 weeks in the gym is not going to fix the problem. You know, you have to change your whole life. You have to change your mindset about how you see health, how you see yourself, how you value yourself. And,
Right.
a lot of people eat for the wrong reasons. We know this. They're stressed. They have problems in their life. They have issues in their mind, and they're carrying a lot of mental baggage, and they spend their whole day doing what I call stinking thinking, which is basically, they're just thinking all this stuff in the back of their mind all day long, when really I want them to get out of their head.
How
I
do you
think
do that?
that's the biggest difference between me and most motivational coaches and most trainers. Is most trainers and coaches you go to, they'll sit you down and say, okay, well, tell me about the relationship you have with food. How do you see food? What does it mean to you? That's just putting you back in your head. That's just putting you back in the problem. What I want you to do is to find a new thing to aim at. So I created functional longevity for that reason. I want you to aim at health. I want to find out what your dreams are, what you wanted to be when you were young, where you want to go in the future. And I want to give you the physical ability and health to be able to do that. Because then I believe the fat takes care of itself. I don't want you focusing on the fat. Let that go. I want you to focus on becoming healthy, becoming fitter, chasing your dreams, living life happily.
So it's almost like you are a psychologist in a way. Like you are like a healer. You are listening to people's problems and you are guiding them in the direction, not just focus on the body, but on their minds. But so I mean, how long would it take for you to work with somebody? Because this seems like it would take a long time to allow somebody to open themselves up to you and to tell you I don't know, maybe sometimes they don't even know their problems. People do not even know that they have their own problems. Like, how do you get people comfortable enough to open up to you and to share with you their dreams and all of these things that you want to get into?
The interesting thing is most people are ready to do it. It's surprising. They just need the right environment or the right atmosphere and the right sense of security and confidence in themselves to be able to do it. They're carrying a heavy baggage. They're carrying this heavy load all their life. They want to dump it. They want to get rid of it. But most times, they're not in an environment that's conducive to that. Sometimes the problems are related to family or the past or work. They can't talk about it. So, I started out as a nutritionist. I started out as an NLP therapist. I started out as a trainer. I wore many hats. But what I found was not one single one of them did the job. It was only when you put them all together into something that it was more effective. And this is why, I say to people all the time, if just going to the gym and training or finding a trainer worked or reading a diet book worked, then go into the gym and tell me how many people are carrying fat and how many people are lean. And the majority of people in gyms are still fat. Why? Because it doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. So what I find is usually when I spend time with the clients and we focus on what I call baby steps. In other words, we make small little incremental steps in progress, a little bit of weight loss, a little bit of strength gain, a little bit of progress every day. They start to feel confident. They start to feel a sense of control about something, because usually this lack of self-love can also be expressed through self-control. You know, they need to control everything because it's the only thing they can control. You know, when you feel more peaceful, you don't need to have this sense of control. You can just let things come and go. You're in the moment. But when you're not at that point of peace, then you're holding on to something that you feel you have control of, because everything else you've no control of. So by doing this step-by-step program, we get this little baby step, incremental sense of progress, and people start to open up. It's amazing. You know, it just evolved that way. And I started to record all the information, the results, the sort of occurrences that were happening and the regularity and how they actually came about. And I could see a system. There was a way you could predict things. And it just seems to be that people do need a sense of security, sense of progress, sense of happiness, and then they feel happy to start unloading.
You can predict what again? Say again?
You can predict when people are going, you know, I can physically predict when people are going to change. I can do it, yeah, within 2 weeks, like on specific days, I can tell you when things are going to happen. And that's with experience. But I can also tell when the emotions are going to start to change too. Because the strange thing about the body is when you start detoxing the body physically, the mind starts detoxing too, because it's interconnected. The whole thing has to work as one.
So when you're saying, oh, okay, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, please, please.
The other thing that's very interesting is that usually when people start losing fat, and you know, this hasn't been proven yet, but my experience is that we tend to store emotions in fat, because when we're at stressful points in our life, we release lots of hormones into our body. And they have to go somewhere. They have to get broken down and go somewhere. And they don't always get taken back up by the system. So we tend to dump toxins into our fat. So once we start losing fat, sometimes these emotions start coming out as well. And I've had clients break down with me, start crying, start getting upset, because they just feel this sudden sense of, you know, they can't explain what. But I can tell them, because the fat is dropping, there's toxins coming out, the body's cleaning out. And it's very empowering for them to see these changes happening.
Oh, wow. I totally forgot what I was going to ask you, but because you're making me think so much. You're making me think so much about what you're saying, because obviously I don't really understand your world and what you do with your clients exactly. I just know that you are very good in what you do. Even though I'm not in any way your client. I'm just, you know, I consider you just my friend. Let me ask you something else. Nowadays, where everybody's living online, and there's a lot of pressure, social pressure to look a certain way, because where we're heading online, and many times you don't see people. Like, for example, me and you. Okay, in the video, I can see you, but with photos and so many other ways, you cannot see who somebody really is. And we have the pressure from the media on how we should look, how we should act, you know, the society standard of what beauty means, what it is. Like, what do you think about that? And does any of your clients ever have, you know, problems because of society or cultural background, or, you know, something that is external instead of just within their heads?
Yeah, listen, this is, you know, we're in an age now where everywhere we look, there's a reflection on ourselves in some form, whether it's through, you know, directly looking in a mirror, whether it's through social media being liked. We have this total reflection all the time. And, you know, as a species, we cannot live on our own. We are part of a tribe. We have to live with other people. So our mere existence is reverberated through the presence of others. But I firmly believe that only when you become emotionally independent of all that and mature to that point, can you be free of that. And I think that's the ultimate goal for everyone, is to be able to let go of any attachment or need for validation from other people. That's when you have fully matured, I think. Now, it's a different road for everybody. It's a long journey. I think we all reach it at different points in our life. But I think for people who are
Or
caught
some
up
people
with
never reach.
well, absolutely right. Some people never get there because they don't actually realize what the problem is. And that's a really sad thing. That's a very difficult thing. There is so much pressure on people now to fit a norm or fit a specific type, and beauty is subjective. It's very subjective. And really, it should be only your eyes that look at yourself and value yourself. No one else should be important. That's the way it should be. And I often wonder what society would be like if we removed all reflective surfaces away and we just had interaction between people and how you dealt with each other. You never saw yourself. How would society be if you never saw yourself? And that's the point you need to get to, I think, to let go of that baggage. And it's very difficult in the society we have now. I think with the clients I work with, they struggle not only with their emotional side from their personal experiences or their life, but the pressure and expectations of others.
You're just talking about self-love, and I started this series about self-love with Natalie, and we talked about self-love as well. And I was telling you that a lot of my past motivation, and I think still some motivation of what I'm doing now, is to get approval, because I used to only get attention and praise when I worked for my parents.
Right.
And when I don't work, because I have to work, I had a really, really hard childhood. I mean, to me, I think I had a really hard childhood. I'm sure there are other people who have harder childhoods, but I'm not living their life. I'm living my own life. So I see that, I was doing work because when I worked, that was the only time I saw my parents. And that was the only time that I had any connection with my parents, or when I got praise. And when I don't work, I got yelled at. So for me, I have developed a sense that, okay, I must work. I must work to be loved. I must work because I never received love from my parents when I don't work. And I think other people have different emotional links in their minds about what self-love is to them. Because I really struggle with that aspect. And, I mean, I haven't worked with my parents for 25 years now. And you're talking about how we need to release our emotional baggage. And I can tell you, I don't know how. Right. I can forgive, but not 100% yet. Like, I can forgive, like, some, because I understand as an adult now with my adult mind, the situation that my parents were in, and that they were in survival mode all the time because they have a limited education. They have a lot of limitations. So I can sympathize with my parents, and I love my parents. And that's why I work to help them, to relieve them of their suffering. But through being parts of them, to being their child and having a certain kind of lifestyle. And just like most of your clients, I'm sure most of your clients have their own links too, as to how they love themselves based on certain things that they receive. Like, how do you actually help them to get rid of their baggage? I mean, I would love to know how.
It's a self-realization. I think, from what you were saying, you've already done most of the journey, right? What's interesting from what you're saying, and obviously you don't need to expand upon it, is that, you can forgive most of it, but there's a little bit you cannot. What is the little bit, and why do you want to hold on to that still? There's still something not finished there, right? There's unfinished business in some respect. And if you can figure out what that unfinished business is, whether it's a deep-seated anger or resentment or, heartache that you just cannot resolve, or you want them to say something, and sometimes it's as simple as, I just want to hear, you love me, or I forgive you, or whatever else. And sometimes it's that simple. But the problem is you may never get that. So how are you ever going to resolve that issue if you never get that? And the tragic situation is with some parents pass away before things are ever resolved with children, right?
Yeah.
So, then the kid is left, or the adult is left with the problem. So how do they resolve it? And it has to come back to you actually just accepting the life that existed before as an experience and letting it go. And how you do that is you have to find a new thing to focus on. Let me give you an example. You're walking down the street and you're in your head and you're thinking all these problems about the past, your relationships, and everything else. Mm-hmm. And suddenly a child runs out on the road, gets hit by a car, right? Immediately you stop thinking about it, right? Because there's something more important has suddenly come into your head. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I try to do with the clients as well, is I want to know what drives them in terms of making them excited about life. I want to know what makes them feel happy, what their dreams are, where they want to go. Because if I can keep focusing them in that direction, eventually it becomes a pattern of thought. It was, I think it was Gandhi who said, your thoughts become actions and your actions become habits and your habits create your destiny, right? I try to reverse that. What I want to do is create habits and make the habits become actions and the actions become thoughts. So if I can get the client or the patient to start seeing a little bit of control in their life on a small level, on a micro level, with just their body or their weight or losing some fat, being in control of that, because most of their life they've never been in control of that, it gives them a little bit of positive affirmation that they have some skills, some control over their life. And they can start making steps and letting go of things. But the past will always drag you down. There's no way. It's an anchor, and you may never be able to resolve it. So it's about creating the future. It's always about walking forward,
Now you say this, and I'm really not trying to turn this into a me thing, because I don't have anybody else to give an example to. But I'm very disciplined and I'm very, very focused. And that's from my upbringing of working. For me, work is so easy. I mean, I'm not saying that I can be a physician or an engineer or, a rocket scientist. That's not what I meant. But for me to work is very, very easy. To create is very easy. And that's because of my upbringing. And because you just said what you said about how to focus on the future, that's exactly what I have been doing. I created, and I have this drive to be very successful in my life because of all the lack that I feel in my heart. Yeah, I feel a lot of lack. And I get those lack mainly from the way my parents used to think. We don't have enough money. We never have enough money, ever. We never, ever, ever have enough money. But let me ask you, how much is enough? What is enough money, right? I'm super healthy. I don't need anybody to tell me to exercise. I will just do it. And I understand, to control. But I still have an anger issue. I can tell you that right now. I have one of the coaches, I think Kitty, you're watching right now. Kitty is the one that told me that I think, she said, I think, Abel, you're angry with yourself for not being able to let go of your anger. And when she said that, I was like, holy shit, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
And, I had so many people tell me, Abel, why don't you be more empathetic about your parents? Why don't you think in a different perspective? And I can tell you, I sympathize with my parents. I feel sorry for my parents. I pity my parents. I feel compassionate towards them. I try to look at them in so many angles, but I still have this anger. And I'm like, I swear to God, there's nothing that I could do that I know that I can at this moment in time to let go of this anger. I seriously don't know how, because yoga, I cannot yoga myself to death. because I'm doing yoga for 3 years now, and I'm
Yeah.
super fit. Like physically, I'm very fit, and mentally, I'm healthy, but I still kind of have these, like, I don't know. You know, like you watch these movies and you watch these movies about like anger management and you think, oh, they're
Yeah.
not angry. Like they're
Yeah.
fine. They're perfectly fine. Like I am perfectly functional. Like I am very successful from other people's perspective. I have a great family. Like I have people say I have a perfect life.
Yeah.
But okay, maybe because I'm a perfectionist, because like I said to you, I said I'm a Virgo, and I'm always trying to fix myself. Like I always feel like something is wrong with me. Like I
Mm.
seriously don't know if that is true or not.
But
I know that. So I mean, like I really need like some guidance here, you know, because you're saying look into the future, dream, focus. I have been doing that. So
yeah, but
what
if
can you
you
tell me?
listen to if you listen closely to what you're saying, to the language, what you're saying is you're very driven, you're very focused, you're in control, everything else, because you know how hard it was when you were young. Your parents had nothing. You know, you don't want to end up like that. You were driven by, you know, the work ethic they have, you have, and you will push yourself. All that's still coming from the past. Your
Yeah,
motivation now is all still coming from the past. So even though you think you're looking ahead, you're
right,
pulling the energy from the past from a negative place. And
right,
that's unsustainable energy. That will always fade up and down because of the emotions. Your energy needs to be derived from a positive area, from a positive source. In other words, it shouldn't be about I have to be successful. I have to make money because when I was younger, we didn't have anything.
right.
That motivation won't work. It just won't work.
Uh-huh.
There's a field of science now called epigenetics, right? When
Uh-huh.
we have DNA in our cells, right? The blueprint for everything in our body, the DNA is the blueprint for
Mhm.
everything.
Right.
We now understand that when without getting technical, when the RNA goes into the DNA and pulls out the blueprint to make whatever it's going to make in the body, it goes through a filter called an epigenome, right? Now ignore the names. But this
Okay.
filter is very important because this filter affects how everything in the body is formed, including your thoughts, because your thoughts are protein molecules, okay? So how this filter affects everything comes from what you eat, how you exercise, where you live, how you work, and what you think, right? So you're affecting everything on a daily basis in your body just by thinking. And if you're deriving all your energy from the past and all your motivation to deal with the problems from a negative source, then you're creating this negative state in your body all the time, this catabolic state. You're always in a state of stress until you reach the point where you can find a future that you're motivated to do, not for money, not because of the past,
Mm-hmm.
but just because you love it. Just because it makes you smile every day you get up and you're happy to do it for free. That's the obsession you need to develop. That's the dream you need to have. You know, when you were a kid, if you know, most kids, if you say, what do you want to be? And they say, I would like to be an astronaut, or I want to be an actor, or I want to be this. They don't go, because I want to make lots of money. It's because it's exciting. It makes me excited about life. You know, it makes me want to do stuff. And that's kind of where you need to get as an adult again. You need to let go of that negativity because it's just an energy source, a power source that dries up all the time. And that's why people get the ups and downs with it, you know.
I think you're right. I love my job. I love my
Mm.
work as a presenter, and now I have no work.
Yeah,
I feel more sad. Like
yeah,
I seriously, I feel more sad because I never work. I never work as a presenter because I thought that I could be a great presenter because I never even know that I am good enough to be a presenter because that was when I was a kid, I did not know that that was a profession.
yeah,
And I derive my happiness from being present when I am on stage, but I'm not doing that at all now. I mean, this is the closest that I can get to my profession, to you know, what I love. And yeah, I agree with you, because I still have this past thinking a lot that makes me feel like, oh, I never want to go back to that again. Like, I never ever want to have that life again. I
Yeah.
never ever want to work at a restaurant again.
You
Even
see how
even
impassioned you are?
even
Yeah.
even if I'm the owner of a restaurant, I was like,
Yeah.
fuck no. I'm sorry I said that word, but like, my anger towards that business,
Yeah.
like the hatred towards that business is so much.
Yeah.
Like, I say hate. I say hate because being at that restaurant make me feel like I was a prisoner. And to let go of that is where I need to go. You know, to
Mm.
let go of that, because it's not easy. Just like you say, you know, people break down, people cry. Like, I have a tear coming out of my eyes now
Yeah.
because I feel this anger inside when I talk about it. And
No.
I really don't like feeling like this, but I'm stuck. Like, I feel like I'm stuck in my past still. And you know, that's why I don't know. Like, for example, like you're saying, like, okay, focus on the future. Yeah, my future is to be a top great presenter known by the whole world, and to be an amazing coach to help people. That's my future. But
Your your
this
your
past,
future should, your future should be to be happy, not to be on top, because one day you won't be on top. Everybody
yeah,
falls off the top, right? And one
yeah,
day you might not make money, or one day, God forbid, we might have another thing like we have now where we cannot do anything, right? So
yeah,
relying on that to take you out of your pain now is not going to work. You know, your goal in life should be to be happy. There is nobody who reaches their deathbed and lies on the deathbed and says, "Oh, I wish I'd done another seminar. That would have really made my life worthwhile," right? You know, it's like,
yeah,
no, it's
exactly.
like, I wish I had have loved someone more. I wish I had have climbed another mountain. I wish I had have, you know, tasted another piece of fruit, right? It's that's what makes you happy. All the other stuff doesn't make you happy. And that's until you can find that place, then you are always fighting with yourself. You know, I mean, you're very driven, you're very motivated, but it's an anger energy, you know, and I totally understand, and I empathize with you completely where you are. You know, we've all had those experiences in our life. I've had similar things in my life in the past too. And the only way you reach that point of letting go is actually, you know, it's not that you forgive yourself, but you decide to accept what was as what was, and it won't be anymore. You know, your past was consider it a movie script, and you're now going to write a redraft. From this day forward, you can write the new movie script. Don't play the old movie. Just write the new one that Abel wants, you know, the one that's going to make her happy.
You call yourself a functional longevity coach. Can you
Yeah.
just tell me a little bit, what did you mean by that?
I wanted to set a different standard for people in life for health. Too many people, you know, we've all had the experience. People in the 20s, mainly the 30s and upwards, go to a doctor and, you know, that you have a little bit of blood pressure, you're a little bit overweight, you got a few things going wrong. And the doctor goes, "Oh, you're fine. You're fine." According to the bell curve, the medical statistics bell curve, that's not going to get you a long life. That's not going to get you through life. That'll get you the statistical average. So what I wanted to try and do for my clients as part of creating this magnificent obsession to give them the tools to chase their dream is set the bar higher. So what I say to them is aim for functional longevity. And that means to be able to do the things you want to do mentally and physically all the way through your life. And that means you have to invest a little bit of time in what you eat, how you think, how you exercise, rather than doing what is the standard norms. And that to me is the epitome of functional longevity.
Oh, okay. Very deep. I don't understand everything you say, but obviously that's why you do what you
Yeah.
do, and you're helping people with your skills. There are some questions, and I would like to ask, like Mike, or if you have questions to ask Steve, you can text him directly. Is that okay if somebody
Yeah,
texts you
that's
directly?
absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. And they can get me on Instagram or they can get me on the website, which is www.stephenoreilly.com. So that's
Yeah,
fine.
exactly. He just got his new website up live yesterday, right?
Correct.
So please go check out his website. And thank you so much for everybody who has been staying with us and obviously, enjoy my crying and listening to Steve share his expertise with us. So thank you so much once again for watching. Next guest is this Thursday with Liana, which is Flow of Life, and she is actually part of this group as well. So please join us at the exact same time at 8 p.m. Thailand. So if you're elsewhere, please check the time zone. So once again, it's Thursday with Liana, and we're going to talk about mind freedom is a choice, which is like another amazing topic that I want to talk about because it's all about controlling your mind. And I mean, like I said, all this quarantine, restriction stuff really makes us either go totally nuts or you have to decide to control your mind and control your destiny. And I choose to control my mind and try to live a happier life. And I hope that everybody can try to have a better life and maybe go on a spiritual path, instead of just letting all of this distraction get to us. So once again, thank you so much for watching.
Thank you, everybody.
I will have this video up on my website tomorrow. So if anybody wants to have a copy, please send me a direct message. Thank you so much, Steve, for your time.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Abel. Come.
Really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you privately later. Yeah?
Okay. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.